Hello, everybody, and welcome to another session of our sMedia dealership webinar series. It's a pleasure to have you all with us today. We do appreciate your time, so we're going to get right started here. If you did join us for part one, we focused on the potential leaky budget. We established that understanding the cost of a bad website was only step one, and here we are today for step two. We are going to be optimizing the shopper experience. So you are investing significant time and money to bring high intent shoppers to your digital showroom. But if that user journey is full of friction and confusing steps, then those ad dollars are still being poured down the drain. So today we're going to dive deep into real dealer websites to see exactly how shoppers interact with your inventory. We'll also explore what both low and high converting VDPs and pages look like. We'll identify some friction points that might be killing your sales, and we'll show you the data-driven adjustments needed for a strong Q2. So let's go. I am thrilled to introduce our experts who will be leading the conversation today with over 30 years of combined automotive digital experience. We have Erin Richmond, who is our CEO here at sMedia. She is the executive vision behind connecting high-level digital strategies with tangible business results. Her passion lies in creating a truly seamless customer experience, connecting the digital and in-store worlds to drive clear, measurable ROI. And joining her is Alicia Wilson, our head of growth. Alicia specializes in turning dealer goals into high performing online strategies, focusing intensely on maximizing conversions and overall user flow. Alicia is an expert when it comes to executing a growth plan that gets operations moving forward and upwards. So don't be shy to reach out, as they are both always available to talk strong strategy and growth. And just one more thing before we get started, we want to make sure we have the ability to answer all of your questions. So to help us manage that flow a little bit better and ensure we don't miss any, please use the dedicated Q&A feature you should see there on your screen, and avoid using the general chat for any of these. We will be tracking the Q&A session throughout the presentation and dedicating some time at the end to address as many as possible. But if we run out of time, this will also ensure that we will have time to follow up with you afterwards. So without further delay, let's learn how to move beyond the spend and master the user experience. Ladies, the screen is all yours.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Angie. And thanks, everybody, for joining us for another webinar here. So, as Angie already mentioned in part one, we showcased how your website experience may be costing your dealership. We really went through the user experience, we defined it, talked about what it meant, and asked you all on that call how you thought shoppers actually felt when they were visiting your website and shopping. So, that webinar was actually right before Christmas. So we left everyone with a little bit of Christmas break homework. We actually have relinked that same homework here. So in that lovely little URL, and I think Angie's going to throw it in the chat for everybody too. It's a website worksheet. Right? It's nothing too crazy, but what's nice is that link is going to allow you to make a copy of the worksheet. It's going to be yours forever. So we've added some of the elements that we think are really important for you to be looking at and going through on a really regular basis, and things just to bring up with your web providers. But again, since that copy of the worksheet is yours, you can add to it, you can change it, you can do whatever you need to customize it for you and your stores. All right, so that was a little bit on part one, and you're going to hear callbacks to that a few times throughout the webinar today. But what are we going to talk about today? So, as Angie mentioned, the goal of today is really to give you a better understanding of how shoppers are moving through your website, where they're spending that time, and how that experience will make or break your ad performance. So, we are going to go through some of those optimizations. We are going to go through some of that experience of going through your website, and then ultimately how that's impacting your ad performance. Okay, so there's a lot of tools we can use, right? And probably most of the ones on the screen right now aren't anything new. So I'm going to go through a quick run through of some of them before we actually dive into some of the stats and data that we wanted to chat with you guys about today. So Google Analytics, GA4. So big things that we're looking for in GA4 is just those engagement rates and what we can actually track from that standpoint. With analytics, of course, though, there's so many things that you can dive into, whether it's looking at your bounce, whether it's looking at time on site, and it just honestly helps you understand and gives you some insights into the overall site effectiveness and just user interest, where they're spending that time. And Google Search Console. So this one might be a little bit less familiar to everyone on the call, but essentially it allows the website owner to monitor, maintain, and troubleshoot site presence in the Google search results. So it helps us understand how Google sees your site by showing some of the queries that are driving that traffic and which pages on your entire website ecosystem, and there's a lot of them, are indexed, and also if there's any errors. So these are two things that your web providers are probably looking at on a pretty regular cadence. But at the store, we appreciate it's probably not something you look at terribly often. So these are two things we definitely recommend. Ask your website provider about them. Get access to those accounts because it'll help you as you're going through everything that we're going to chat about today. So Page Speed Insights. So this is a free tool for anybody to use. And essentially what it does is it scores load speed and user experience metrics. It highlights some optimization opportunities to improve that experience and ideally reduce bounce rates. Who here on the call, and this is going to be a blind and anonymous poll here, so you're just going to have to put up your hands by yourself in whatever room or office you're sitting in. But who here on the call has ever tried to load a website on your phone, gotten really frustrated at how long it's taken to load, and then just gone back to the Google search because you'll just go and look for another website? I'll put my hand up. I know I have, right? So those things count as bounces. So that's why this is a really great tool. Again, it's free. It's from Google. And in that worksheet that we had on the previous slide, and I think in the chat here, we have the URLs that you'll need for these as well. So don't worry about not understanding or knowing what Page Speed Insight is. The URL will be in that worksheet so that you guys can go check it out and test your sites. And the final one, and this is going to be the big talking point for today, is Hotjar or similar tools. But essentially what Hotjar is a scroll and heat map tool. So it allows essentially what it does is it's tracking the user experience and behavior of what someone's doing on your site. So where they're clicking, where they're doing a big U-turn on their website, and where maybe some frustrations might be. So it's essentially helping to understand the user experience beyond just the analytics that we can maybe get out of Google Analytics or your Google Search Console or even PageSpeed Insights for that matter. So as I already mentioned, since we don't have hours and hours today, and we have you for such a short time, we are going to really focus on Hotjar and the insights that we found while tracking a number of our dealer websites. So with that, I will actually pass things over to Erin.
Alicia. So as Alicia mentioned in preparing for the session, we really put Hotjar to use. And I would challenge everyone to do the same for their own websites. We wanted to understand the website experience. And while a limited sample size doesn't, create a benchmark or help you understand your own site, I think it does have some commonalities in our recordings and in the data we tracked that were pretty compelling and interesting to me. And I would encourage all of you guys to have this conversation with your website providers. What are your top pages? What's happening on those pages? Who's clicking on what? And where are those clicks happening? So again, we really wanted to understand the modern customer experience and how shoppers were navigating and interacting with our dealership website. So in this, we tracked a Toyota dealership, a Kia dealership, and a Honda dealership across our customer base. And we recommend every dealership try this. So I think the most interesting thing from these results, and we'll go through each of them individually, and something that we've actually spoken to our customers about a lot recently is that on each site, even though these are franchised dealers and they obviously sell new cars, their used inventory pages were the top viewed pages on all of the sites. Now, I'm not a GSM, but the question I would have is, if I were working at these stores, how often are we getting a lead or an up on a used vehicle, but do we actually flip them to new? And can used inventory selection and quantity drive new inventory sales? And if this was my store and I had this data, the next question would be, okay, then what is my used inventory sourcing strategy? And how can I tie used into new to help drive results? I think it's also important to note that across all three websites, which we will show you in a minute, the most clicked buttons outside of mandatory compliance banners are filter, search, or vehicle search buttons. This speaks to the importance of a search and a filter tool and giving your customers the ability to get to your inventory in as few clicks as possible. VDP views, as we're seeing in these results, are tied directly to the number of units you're selling at any given time. The VDP is where a shopper is going to make the decision of whether or not to give your dealership a chance in their purchase decision. It's important to understand if you're focused on new sales or you're struggling with used, how your traffic is skewed to one inventory category or the other, and what source is driving those pages and views. And finally, how do you get more eyes on those pages? So as we look at the Honda dealership, oh, sorry, Alicia. So we've got Honda, Toyota, and Kia here. You can start to see those commonalities come up where you've got your shop pre-owned, you've got your shop new, and then you've got the individual SRP or VDP views on the right. I think it's also important to note that those homepage views are actually below the used and the new search pages here and on pretty much all of the pages. So that entry point for your SRP is crucial, and optimizing not just your homepage experience or your VDP experience, but that SRP experience, and making sure that your customers have a solid inventory filter on that page to get to what they want really quickly. Thanks, Alicia. Okay. So the next thing we looked at was filtering down from that homepage into SRP and VDP. What are the top click events that are happening on those pages? And again, we found some pretty interesting commonalities, and it illustrates our earlier point that on every site from the homepage, the search tool drove the most clicks. So our contact buttons and chats from the homepage were driving incredibly limited engagement, highlighting that people who come to your site are probably looking for something first and talking to you after they find it, if they find it. And dealerships who are going to win are those who help customers find what they're looking for efficiently and with minimal effort. The navigation menu or the hamburger icon on your homepage, I think it's also important to note, isn't one of the top click events on pretty much any of these pages. And we can actually just reveal the other pages as well. So shoppers are interacting with the buttons and the calls to actions right in front of them. And I think it's important for us to all consider if our own websites make the most of the space that's available on the homepage, especially from a mobile device. Oftentimes, and I think this is a relic of websites past, but we put a banner or a promo message right on that homepage, right in the above the digital fold. And we kind of forget that actually people are here to find inventory, and they may not necessarily be interested in or engaged with that banner unless we're engaging in some pretty serious personalization. So the Toyota website, you'll see search CTA, so search call to action, had 20% of the clicks, while your model search filter and make search filter were driving the next most. And you can again see that call now CTA had very, very few taps or clicks, and menu navigation had only 4%. Also, the thing to note on all of these pages is less than 50% of visitors are scrolling below the first part of the page. So no one is scrolling down on your homepage. They want to find that information and really quickly get to it. Okay, on to the SRP. So the SRP really, again, is going to show you guys that they're wanting to find the inventory really quickly. They may use a search bar or engage with a sort and filter off the hop. And the clicks to call on these pages did start to increase, although in a limited way. So we saw that the search bar on Toyota had about 11% of clicks. So people were actually natively searching in, and then the other pages had the sort and filter. So again, how are people interacting with the tools that you're putting in front of them? And are the tools that you're putting in front of them to find the inventory intuitive for how people want to shop? I think that's very important. Okay, I think one critical piece of data to consider that most dealerships aren't thinking about as we're evaluating our digital results is, what are your website leads and phone calls asking, and where are those website leads and phone calls asking? And I think it's important to understand that most of them are going to happen on that vehicle detail page because it has the information that you need or that a customer needs to make that purchase decision. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind. So if you're looking at the Toyota top VDP click events, Honda or Kia, you can see that photos are the biggest driver of clicks on these pages. So we're doing ourselves a really big disservice by not having photos or using just stock imagery, especially on a used vehicle. We have got to make sure that the photos are driving the customer experience here. And when we do that, we will start to see that forms and chat clicks or clicks to call do go up, although it's still limited. Not all of your visits are going to convert to a lead, and that's just the reality here. Okay, moving on. Alicia.
All right. So, in our quick little gift there, what was the point of that? The whole idea is like, what else can we learn from our shoppers? So, Erin just went through a whole bunch of data showcasing where they click and what they're doing. So, I, in this exercise, watched a lot of the rage clicks. And in watching those rage clicks, I have some good learnings so that you guys don't have to do that. So, what did I learn from watching a whole bunch of rage clicks looking at how users are working through websites? Honestly, we make it a little hard. We make it hard even when a shopper lands on a VDP. They're putting their hand up. They want to fill out that form. Like Aaron said, we just make it really tough. All right, and it looks like my slides don't want to advance here. There we go. I don't think the last one showed, but there we go. Uh, there we are. We are got a little bit of lag here today. All right, so we make it tough on the VDP. We make it tough when they're actively trying to fill out those lead forms, right? This is a great example showcasing somebody just going nuts all over this form. They can't figure out why they can't check that availability and see what they want to know about this car. We make it hard even when people are just trying to simply shop the website. So, like Aaron said, from the homepage, making it into the SRP or to the VDPs, the number one thing getting clicked is all of those search filters and all those search functionalities, right? But as we're watching users go on an SRP and try and figure out make and models and try and find what they're actually looking for, we make it tough. All right. And even when they are trying to search for a used Toyota on a Toyota dealership website, we make it very, very, very tough. So as Aaron was already seeing from some of the analytics that we saw, those used SRPs are outranking a lot of our dealer websites in terms of search and where people actually want to go and land. So we got to figure out like what can we do to make it easier. So out of all of those videos and all of the learnings, what are the two biggest takeaways that we can walk away with? So important thing number one, shoppers want to see your inventory. That's why they're on their website. It's probably why they clicked your ad. It's probably why they made whatever search they did to get to your website. They want to see your inventory. An important number two, we have to stop making it so hard, right? So one of the big things going through the exercise, the website worksheet exercise that we've linked is really focusing on how does it feel? How does it feel to go through that website? How does it feel to go through and find certain pieces of inventory, book a service appointment, anything of that nature? And while, you know, myself, Aaron, Angie, everyone on this call, we're probably all pretty familiar with dealership websites at this point, and we probably have a very specific way for how we're maneuvering through the website to find exactly what we need. So, what I would also challenge everyone to do too is not just think about how it makes you feel. Think about how it makes a shopper feel, a shopper who is not on your website all the time, a shopper who isn't going to that homepage every single day when they sit down at their desk and they're getting started for the day. They're getting ready to go, right? So I would challenge you to ask a friend, ask a someone who's out of sight of the industry, ask your mom, ask your grandma, ask somebody, anyone else except just yourself, how they feel going through the website, and even give them a couple of tasks like, hey, I want you to go find a 2021 RAV4 and submit a lead for me. and just see how long it takes, or just ask them a few questions. And I think we'd all walk away with a lot of really good insights as to what's happening and maybe some improvements of what we could do better.
Thanks, Alicia. So how does all of this impact your ads? What is the takeaway here, and how do we get more efficient with our advertising spend? And I think the important thing for everyone to understand is that your ads don't exist in a bubble. There has to be a customer experience after they click on the ads. So I can run fantastic ads for all of you, and I can run crappy ads for you. The thing I hear the most from dealerships when I'm talking to them is, I want more leads. But you actually want more sales. You want more opportunities to make a sale. And so I can do that with your ads by buying your business name, if we're going to be dishonest about things. If I buy your business name, chances are someone who is searching for your business name wants to contact your dealership. And when I report back on that, it ends up looking like, hey, great, your ads are working. We got a lot of leads. But at the end of the day, if I'm buying your inventory search related or search terms, or I'm buying search terms that we would consider low funnel or high intent, people who are actively shopping for vehicles that you have in inventory, and they click back to your website and there are no photos, or they're getting bombarded with demands on their attention, or there's a page worth of calls to action and none of them apply to the information that the customer might be seeking, chances are we've just spent a lot of money on a click, and we've brought them to the site and they aren't going to convert to that lead. What we really want to do is measure incrementality and sales as an impact on or as a metric of success for our ads. Leads are important because they're an opportunity to talk to your customers. But the best result we're going to get is if we continue to focus on those low funnel, high intent searches, and your team works together with your website vendor and your advertiser to optimize your site for the customer experience. Give shoppers the information that they need to make a purchase decision. Present the information in a way that is easy to understand and easy to find. Don't clutter the VDP with calls to action, and don't overwhelm your digital real estate by pushing narratives that are only important to you as a dealership. And then when you've done that, reevaluate in 6 months. Understand that shopper behavior and trends change. Right now in 2026, I think it's important for all of us to note that we're seeing leads decline year over year. And I think a lot of that goes back to how we've treated those leads over the years. But it's also important to note that your digital efforts don't exist in a bubble. So your paid media, your reputation management, your organic social, and your website don't exist independently. It's all part of your modern system to sell vehicles, and they all impact each other. So that website experience is where I would 100% start if I was looking to improve or increase my leads in 2026. Okay, so we want to do a quick recap of why this is important, other than what I just went through. And if you missed part one, we'll talk a little bit about that intro that we covered in part one. So in case you missed it, we went on a fishing trip, and we talked about the dealer's fishing expedition. So again, I am not a fisher person. I didn't go ice fishing this year, and I usually don't go on the lake most years. I would rather spend my time reading a book in the bottom of the boat. That's where I was on most of the fishing trips of my youth. But the analogy works here. You have a lake full of car shoppers. These are your fish, and your physical dealership is on the shore. Your website is the fishing line that is going to pull them in. Some fish might jump out of the lake straight at you, but to be successful, you need to catch as many fish as possible. For us professional fisher people, know that you absolutely need a good hook and a strong line. So what does that look like? We've touched on this a few times now, but there have been so many examples in our industry where we purposefully withhold information or make automotive shoppers jump through a lead gate to get the information. So get ePrice because we really want their email address, and they click on the button and they have to send us a generic lead that just has their email address. Maybe if we're lucky, it has the vehicle that they're looking for. And then it's up to your team to convert. But that's not a great quality lead. All it indicates is that they're interested in price, and chances are your sales team is going to have to follow up with them a whole bunch, assuming that they haven't already found a better priced vehicle somewhere else in the 24 hours that it's taken us to respond. If you've responded in a couple hours, well done, but chances are it's a little bit longer. So we're making them go through a lead gate so we can get their contact info. And now we wonder why our leads are down. Leads aren't down because traffic is bad or traffic has changed. They're down because we've historically delivered a really poor customer experience in favor of generating a lead. And no one wants to send an email to ask a question that should be answered on the website already. I think most of us have probably shopped on Amazon or online to some degree in 2026. And we can all understand that the online shopping experience, although vehicles are a bigger ticket item, has trained our customers to expect a certain experience. And I think it's important for us as digital advertisers and marketers to understand how our own websites and customer experience digitally might be falling short of customer expectations. So if we've recognized that our goal is to sell cars and the customer's goal is to buy cars, then I would ask everyone on this call to optimize for those goals, not for leads. So we're going to take a quick second to do a poll. How many of you have stopped advertising or switched vendors because you didn't feel like your ads were effective? And number two, how many of you evaluate your dealer site as often as you consider your ROI on ads? We'll give you guys a couple seconds to respond.
Okay. I'm not going to hold these answers. I will share them, but I'm just interested to always see how the data comes through. Some answers still coming in. We'll give you guys a few more seconds. Oh, okay. Glad I waited. The answers are changing. Okay. 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So, okay. So how many of you have stopped advertising or switched vendors because you didn't feel like the ads were effective? So 63% of you said I definitely have, 38% said I might have, and 0% said I never have. So that's interesting. And question number 2, how many of you elevate your dealer site as often as you consider your ROI on ads? 35% of you said I evaluate ROI on my ads more frequently, which is amazing. 29% say I evaluate both evenly. 24% say I evaluate my website more frequently. And 12% have said, is that something I should be doing? And I'm going to say yes, it is.
Awesome. So appreciate the honesty, team. And I think it's something that we need to look at. I think that we need to start thinking about our website as our most important digital real estate in the market, and everything else. That's the line. That's the line that brings shoppers into your store in the digital lake, so to speak. And it's so crucial that we look at it on a regular basis and evaluate it with not only automotive industry eyes, but also with just automotive shopper eyes, and try to align our goals on the site with the goals of the shopper, which is to sell more cars and buy more cars. We can all drive traffic to your site, but if the experience falls flat when they get there, it's not going to help you sell more cars. Okay. So next steps. So key questions for your website providers. So you guys all have the web sheet there to evaluate your own sites. I am happy to walk anyone through that if you guys want a little bit more of a longer one-on-one session. But start asking some key questions for your website providers. And not that I want to put them on the spot. We work really well with all website providers, but we want to work in partnership with them more to help you guys drive more results. So start asking targeted questions about site performance tracking analytics tools, update frequency, ROI impact, and mobile responsiveness to ensure alignment with your goals. These guys own the key to what's happening on your site and that data behind it. So work with them to get more and better data. And then I start identifying red flags in the responses. So just be careful of any vague answers or lack of data. I think most of the website providers that we work with, especially in Canada and the US, are very forthcoming with that information and are following some pretty good standards and practices. So if there's no proactive issue resolution, then I would start kind of evaluating, and then also an unwillingness to share if ROI is improving. And then finally, prioritize those improvements. A lot of us have to deal with some OEM requirements for websites, so you've got to work within what the OEM wants to see on the site. But you should be able to maximize usability and the customer experience, and then start adding alignment and messaging, mobile optimization, and just again look back at the results and the site at least every 6 months. I would personally do it every quarter, but we all have other things to do than poke through our website. So I understand that the goal is ultimately to sell more cars.
Absolutely. All right. So hopefully today we're all going to be leaving with some good insights and just a few things to take away. We went through a lot of the click and heat map data. I appreciate those screens are probably a little small to see. So if anybody wants some of those screenshots, definitely reach out. We can help you out. The link to that website worksheet is up on the screen again. It's still posted in the chat for everybody. So please, if that's the only thing you take away from today, just copy that link down, just so you have it. It's something that you can reference and go back to time and time again. It's very simple. There's those four main sections in there, and the first two are really focusing on everything we went through today. Making note of how the shopping experience is on the website and how you feel going through it. And also, remember, that was part of the homework too. We're not just gonna do the worksheet ourselves. We're also going to try and find a friend, a family member, someone else to shop the website, and just to get that experience and see how it is for them. And then sections 3 and 4 in that worksheet are going to arm you with some of those web provider questions. Again, it's just to help gain better insights across the board. And section 4 is going to outline some of those tools and those URLs that we mentioned earlier so that you have everything handy and at your fingertips. And at the end of the day, honestly, we're here to help you get the most out of your advertising dollars. That's why we partner with every single website provider out there, because nothing in your marketing ecosystem is independent. We all have to work together. And at the end of the day, a better website experience is the foundation of your marketing success that Aaron just walked through as well, right? Whether you're advertising with us, with someone else, it doesn't matter. Your website is the online digital showroom, right? That the old adage has never gone away. The old tagline, it's never going to go away. It is your footprint online, and all of your marketing and your entire holistic ecosystem is driving traffic to that website. So we need to make the most of it. And if you're still considering leads as that big measure of success for your marketing, then again, you may want to consider what your shoppers really want. Do they want to go through those experiences? Do they want to send in those emails? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they just want to find the information on your websites. All right, so with that, thank you all for joining us. We wanted to keep this one pretty short and quick and leave some time for Q&A. So I'll hand it over to Angie if there's any that have come through. But Aaron and we're here. We're here to help. If you scan the QR code, it'll actually just take you to one of our forms to fill out, and we'll be able to get your contact information and be in touch, or shoot us a message in the chat, and we'll make sure to make note and be in touch later as well. But if anyone has to hop off, thank you so much. But we'll open the floor up to some Q&A.
So we do have some questions, and I see one being typed at the moment. So let's start with the first one. We know a bad website costs us money, but what is the single biggest item that kills a conversion even when a lead is trying to fill out a form?
I'll start that one. Honestly, it's the friction. right? I think we even saw it. Hopefully, it played again. I know the Google slide deck was being a little laggy and glitchy, but that first video that we had that I had playing on filling out a lead was literally just a friction experience, right? So a user is actively trying, or a shopper on your website is actively trying to reach out, saying, "Hey, I'm interested. I want to know more on this car," and then the form experience wasn't working. I think that's one of many different variations, but it's not even just about being able to fill out a lead form. I think it's just unnecessary friction on the website as a whole. If that is the biggest item and conversion killer just in general, that would be it. It's making it hard for them to find what they need online. And if they do want to reach out, if we make it hard in the form too. I used to always make this comment to dealers probably even 10 years ago, but I think it's still relevant today. Think of like when you're filling out a form on your website, or if you're, doing a shipping address. I mean, I'm sure lots of us have that auto save feature, right? So you type in, two letters of your address and boom, whole address fills out. Well, before that was a thing, we were making people type in their postal codes to fill out forms. And on your mobile device, it was like 20 different touch points, I think, to get all like the capitalization and the letter numbers, especially if you're in
Is there a
Canada.
space? Is there not? Is there a
Right. Is
dash?
it a space? Is it no space? And like every single format of lead form was different. So again, it's not necessarily pinpointing that as like the exact example and experience on your website, but I think that's a really good example of just what friction can be and how it manifests itself on a website. So Aaron, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
No, I think you nailed it. Making it hard, right? We said it earlier. Don't make it hard.
For sure. So beyond page speed, what are the top two things we should audit monthly to ensure our website isn't wasting our ad spend?
So I think, when we're looking at just a quick glimpse or walk through the website, making sure you're keeping an eye on the vehicle merchandising and your image count. So making sure that you've got photos of your vehicles. That is usually an indicator that process is falling behind somewhere in the building, right? So if you've got a process established for photos, and those photos aren't making it onto the website, what is going on? People are coming to the site and they expect to see photos of those vehicles, especially if you've got it listed there in inventory. We saw those clicks being the top clicks on a VDP. Make sure that you're not wasting people's time and your money by making sure that those vehicles have images. And then your message alignment as well. So ensuring that your landing page content and your ads have the same messaging across the board and the same pricing. I know pricing can be a challenge on some of our dealership websites, depending on what tools we're using to get that pricing information out there. But if the customer goes from a VDP to a digital retailing tool and the price differs, that creates a disconnect and a pretty big question mark or exclamation mark in the customer's head. So how do you make sure that those messages are aligned across all of the platforms where a customer might find your car?
Yeah, and just to double down on Aaron's point with the photos, I wanted to jump back to the VDP slide because again, I know it was a lot of stats and like small images thrown at you guys really quick there. But I think this is a perfect example to showcase like your inventory merchandising being definitely your number one thing you can do. The majority of these clicks across every single website that we looked at, it didn't matter which brand, it didn't matter new, use, everyone wants to see those photos. Number one.
For sure. So for a dealer who can't change their website due to OEM requirements, what should we be focusing on?
Okay, that one's gonna be tough. And what I would say is focus on your circle of control, right? We can't change everything in a day, and you can't control everything that other people are managing, right? So with OEM requirements, they're so varied, right? So I guess it would depend on the OEM that you're working with in particular, for whomever asked the question. But I would see, where maybe there's some flexibility. So some manufacturers will really dictate potentially certain drop downs or how the search navigation is, and others aren't. So I would maybe add that, that if everyone made a copy of that website worksheet, that is a great question to ask your website providers. Because if you are using a web provider through an OEM certified program, they will know what you can and can't do. And that includes, can you adjust some of your navigation items? Can you adjust how the search bar appears on your homepage? Can you adjust how many call to actions you have on your VDP or not? So I think the number one thing I would say and focus on would just be like finding out what you can control and then looking at some of that data to then make some of those changes potentially, right? I appreciate that's kind of like a blanketed answer, but it is so varied with every single one of those programs. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. I think step one and what you should focus on is just understanding what you might be able to change. And then once you've had the time to, maybe look at some of those Hotjar stats, right? Or work with your website provider on that. Because even if you're just gonna get it installed now, it's going to take time to log all of those sessions and to actually accumulate some good data, right? So it's better to start now because then in 3 months from now, you're going to know a whole lot more than you do today. And if you know what you can and can't change and what some of those rules are for your websites, you might be able to make some improvements. So that would be my suggestion there, I think.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we did want to keep this at the 40-ish minute mark, so we're pretty much there. If we did not get a chance to answer your question, we do have all of your information in the Q&A section, and we will definitely follow up. But as always, reach out. Erin and Alicia's emails are both there. We are all very active on socials as well, so find us on LinkedIn or even just send a message to the sMedia page on any of the socials. And I promise I will pick that up and direct it to the right person. So thank you everybody for your time today. We hope you learned at least something. And we look forward to another sMedia webinar dealer series with you in the future. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. I think spring is coming, so let's just hold on to that as long as we can. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.